the truth about the new dog welfare changes in England proposed by government, what they're getting right, and what worries me as a professional. There's been a lot of noise recently about dog welfare, dog attacks, training tools, and government changes. And like most things online, they normally being overhyped or completely misunderstood. So, today, I want to do something slightly different. I want to talk honestly, not emotionally, about the new animal welfare strategy for England proposed in December 2025. What it means for dogs, owners and professionals like myself, what I think they've absolutely got right, and where, in my opinion, there are genuine risks if things aren't thought through properly. Because good intentions don't always equal good outcomes, especially when dogs and public safety is involved. This isn't a rant. This isn't fear-mongering. It's by no stretch of the imagination correct. It's just experience talking here. Let's start with why things like this even exist. Well, that's quite simple. Dog ownership in the UK has completely exploded. And I mean completely exploded. People have blamed COVID, and yes, COVID did see a massive spike in puppy sales and things like that. But the reality is, most people want dogs, and there's always been an incline in people purchasing dogs and having them as pets. But dog attacks are on the rise, behavioural issues are rising, rescue centres are absolutely full to the brim and overwhelmed, trainers, vets and daycare providers like ourselves see the fallout every single day. This strategy is the government trying so desperately to move upstream, to prevent problems rather than just react to them after someone gets hurt, which, if you know the government I know, you're fucking years behind. And honestly, this part makes complete sense. Breeding, sourcing, training, ownership, all of it is connected. You don't get aggressive dogs and aggressive behaviour in isolation. You get it through poor genetics, poor early experiences, lack of education, and sometimes unrealistic expectations from these great TV shows where they'll have a crew of team go in, train a dog that you don't see on TV, and then a man walk in the house and bam, problem solved. One area I fully support is the crackdown on low welfare breeding and puppy imports, because people don't see what we see every single day, day in and day out. They don't see the anxious dogs, the genetically unstable dogs, the dogs bred for looks rather than a function, temperament or health. And then these dogs get passed around pillar to post like a bad problem when things go south. Poor breeding doesn't just create health issues. It massively does cause most of the health issues out there, but it also creates behavioural problems, fear, reactivity, impulse control problems, and so much more. Those don't magically appear when a dog turns 18 months, 2 years old. And yes, dogs do have a teenage stage, but that's not just the problem. This all stems from the breeding and the breeders. So yes, better breeding oversight, better traceability, shutting down puppy farms and dodgy imports from God knows where. I totally agree. That is a completely great positive move for the animal industry. It protects dogs and owners in the long run. I think we could introduce a puppy price cap. For example, off the top of my head, any crossbreed maximum 500 quid. Any purebred pedigree registered dog, £1,000 for example. Obviously, don't get hung up on those figures. This is more just an example. This would stop so many breeders being greedy. I think to even advertise a litter, you should have to pay to sell on any platform, on any website. You should have to pay. Put people off from wanting to do it. Start taking that profit. If they're doing it for the right reason, they won't care. And I think there should be tighter regulations on how many litters a breeder can breed a year. Not based on per bitch like it currently is, but per breeder. A maximum of, 3 litters, for example, a year. That would make them focus on correct breeding, welfare issues, rather than churning puppies out just for money, just so they can do something new. Now, on to something else, dog attacks. I hear, I see everything all the time. I'm sent videos all the time on this. This is where the conversation often goes wrong and people have a difference of opinion. People want simple answers. Ban this, restrict that. It's the breed, it's the owners. The reality is, it's rarely one thing. And that would be so inexperienced of anyone to blame ownership alone. Most serious incidents involve unmanaged behaviour, lack of education, missed warning signs, or dogs being put into situations they're not equipped to handle. You see people taking dogs that are a year old into a busy city centre and they've never even seen a quiet high street. This is what I'm on about. You're putting your dog in the deep end before it can even learn to swim. And I actually welcome the focus on education, training and responsibility. As I'm a behaviourist, I've done so many courses, I've been to so many seminars, so I totally agree that this would be a massive improvement because prevention doesn't start at the point of the attack. I don't know why it's taken the government so fucking long to realise that, but it starts months, if not years before. With dog attacks on the rise, it's clear that the UK has a major, major problem at hand. And I don't care what anyone says, and I will offend here, the modern techniques alone are just making it worse. Explain the huge spike in dog attacks up and down the country at a record high. It's not because them techniques are working now, is it? If this was a product in a house like a phone, it would be recalled. But as it's dogs, we can't do that. We just keep fucking up. Now this is where I need to be careful, but I'll be honest, because it ties in with the dog attacks. The strategy also talks potentially about banning e-collars, and I understand why, as when they are used incorrectly, they can absolutely cause harm, fear, suppression, and fallout behaviours, and that's a real issue. There's no ignoring that. But here's the part that worries me. Blanket bans don't really give you or tell you the difference between misuse and contextual controlled use. I personally know responsible owners who genuinely have reactive dogs, aggressive dogs, dogs that would kill a human or a dog. And they still love them dogs. They still want them to be a part of their home. They're controlling it with all these measures, such as muzzles, leads, structured environments, etc. But one thing a lot of them have in common is they use e-collars. It's not a primary tool. It's not something they just silly-willy zap away. But it's a last line safety in a backup. It's a tool that could genuinely save lives. Because if a muzzle breaks, which often happens, if a clip breaks, again, often happens, or if a dog slips its lead, which again, we see all the time, in those situations, high-risk moments, a correctly conditioned, low-level e-collar can and has prevented many, many attacks. They can literally prevent someone losing a loved one or another pet. And I think we need to be mature. I think we actually need to understand dog behaviour before we all have a voice on something that isn't in our lane. We need to talk about it. I think it's so easy these days to just put a blanket ban on something, and the government do that often. XL bully ban. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. It just moves people onto something new and potentially even worse, or they create something new. The government banned the XL bully. Yes, there was an uproar because people have XL bullies that are fucking phenomenal dogs, and we had to turn one away here called Caesar. Lovely dog. Thankfully, we still get to see him in different ways, but we can't have him in our daycare for different reasons. But people just move on. Now the Cane Corso is just becoming a rise dog, and they're just going to mix breed the Cane Corso to get something more aggressive and more dominant that these people want. Ultimately, you can't stop idiots misusing tools. They will always find a way around it, and I think actually you're going to increase problems. And I'm not saying here that everyone should use e-collars. Absolutely fucking not. And I think there should be a law that comes to this, and only trained behaviourists, for example, can get their hands on collars and then provide them to customers and have a log that keeps track of who and what is being used for. This is me saying, government, think about it before making another mistake in the dog world that could see another spike or rise in dog attacks. Think about it. The conversation should be about education, certification, and accountability, not pretending that all tools are equal in all hands. That's just stupid. My granddad always said to me when I was growing up, you can't help stupid, Kyle. And trust me, in this dog training world, you really can't help stupid. So many people these days train one dog, normally their own bloody dog. They get an online course done and suddenly another dog trainer is born. I've worked hands-on, I think, for 3-4 years before I even considered calling myself a dog trainer or a behaviourist. I just wouldn't have done that publicly and have the bollock to do that. I'm now 13 years deep after that, and I still learn all the time. Yet silly Sally can open up Sally's dog training and has the absolute cheek, to charge people the privilege of that for an £80 course she's done online and some fake reviews. We know who you are, Sally. Another thing this strategy quietly reinforces, whether people realise it or not, is group environments and the responsibility of group environments. What that covers is daycares. Daycare shouldn't just be about play, and it shouldn't be about just burning energy. It's about stress management, selection, and most importantly, welfare under professional supervision. I totally agree that there should be more enforcement, more scrutiny, harder passes to get a license. I'm not against it. Honestly, I totally think that this actually is a fantastic idea, and I welcome it wholeheartedly, because good doggy daycares already operate this way. The bad ones rely on large numbers, cheap paid staff. They've always got like 6 apprentices on the go or loads of volunteers, and they're dodging bullets. But ultimately, the first thing to pay the price for that lack of care and your trust in a business that you think is professional is the dog. The dog will always pay the price ultimately. This strategy supports welfare-led decisions, even when they're unpopular. But I genuinely think that this is something that should be welcomed. And I think good daycares will already welcome this because they're already doing it. Bad daycares are going to be the ones that hopefully we see starting to shut down and leave the scene because they're not doing it right. If you're a dog owner listening to this, however, here's my honest takeaway for the welfare situation. Dog welfare isn't soft, it isn't permissive, and it's not about avoiding difficult conversations. And I think as owners, you need these difficult conversations. I think we need to welcome some more mature situations. And I think there's a bigger spectrum to this dog world than we currently are seeing. I've been doing this for a long time, and there's so many topics we now no longer even talk about. It's about choosing good breeders, responsible breeders, recognising stress early within your dog, using the right tools in the right way, and putting safety before ego, and choosing a breed that suits you before a breed that looks good. Dogs don't fail owners. Systems fail dogs. Overall, I think this strategy is well-intentioned and largely positive, so I hope that we're going to see a few things, and I think when it comes to public safety, we need to worry about the finer details. If we continue to oversimplify complex issues, we risk making them worse, not better, like we have time and time before. Look at the modern techniques of training. Yes, they do work, and yes, I use them, but if a trainer solely relies on modern techniques, they are a part of the problem in this massive spike in dog attacks. There's no other solution other than broaden your scope, broaden your knowledge, and train dogs in many different ways. I would love to know what you all think. Maybe you've used a dog trainer that's more old-fashioned, more modern. Maybe you've done both. Do you believe that tools should be banned outright? Just completely get rid of these collars, get rid of these, I don't know. Or maybe, like me, you think education and accountability matter more in these situations. Let's talk about it properly. Let's have drop some comments. I'll do my best to get around to all of them and answer you, because in my opinion, dogs are deserving better right now rather than just headlines and social media posts. And I think what the government are trying to do has its great intentions, and I think it could potentially bring a new scope to this dog world. But I'm concerned there's too many little voices, especially in this country. Whingy voices with fuck all experience in this industry calling big, big shots. And that needs to change. I'm not even saying talk to me. I've been doing this 16 years, 13 years professionally. I genuinely think you need to talk to the people that have been doing it 40, 50 years, that have seen all the changes. They've seen the attacks rise and rise and rise year on year. They're the people that can maybe help rewind time and get dogs to be in what they used to be without all these attacks and owners rehoming all the time. I think there's so much to be played here. And I think when it comes to rehoming, I think you're going to see a decline, hopefully, with some breeding changes coming in, because a lot of people rehome because they can't manage their dogs. So maybe breeding standards going up could reduce the dogs being rehomed. There's so much more to this. I could go on and on and on. But it would be great to hear your opinion. It'd be interesting to know your thoughts. So drop a comment. I'll do my best to get back to you. And let's see where this goes. Maybe the government, for the first time in their term, can do something right rather than keep fucking up the country. Who knows? Maybe that was too much to ask for.